popcorn ready.
It's game time, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
a team that is known as Stoppers.
The Athletic presents Hoge Jahns.
Every single play, go take it. Bring that juice. Let's go get it. Come on.
Chicago's best Bears coverage.
Go Bears.
Go Bears.
From NBC Sports Chicago, it's Adam Hoge.
I do think he has the support of his teammates. Why would you not be rooting for him to succeed?
And from The Athletic, it's Adam Jahns.
I don't mean to psychoanalyze this stuff, but this is what we do in Chicago. This is what we do with their quarterbacks, and this is the biggest story in town.
Here they are, the Adams, Hoge Jahns.
What's up? Welcome in. Hoge and Jahns with you. Jahns is back. You look good, my friend.
I feel refreshed, a bit rejuvenated. What have I missed? Did I miss the draft? No.
You missed a great episode with Kevin Fishbane that some have called the greatest Hoge Jahns episode of all time.
I'm sure. Who? Kevin's grandma?
Yes. Yes. She
that wouldn't be surprising, though. She does listen.
Yeah, she does. And I have heard she prefers the Kevin Fishbane episodes for good reason on her part. Welcome back, my friend. It's good to have you here. We have a special episode for you as we get closer and closer to the draft. It's all Dane Brugler. The beast is out. You need to be reading this thing. I don't even know the final number of prospects that are in here. I know that's been on Twitter and stuff. It's just, let's just say it's a lot. It's way more than way more prospects than are going to actually be drafted. I mean, there's just 20 quarterbacks alone as you go through this thing. It's a great way to be prepared for the draft. So if you are an Athletic subscriber, you can get the beast on the Athletic, and if you're not, you need to be a subscriber because it's worth it. And just for this thing alone, and you can go to theathletic.com/HogeandJahns. So Dane Brugler will be joining us. You can follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Jahns on Twitter. You can read me at NBCSportsChicago.com. What week is it? I think I had a mock draft last week. I'm losing track of time.
We had 3.0 this week. I took a pass rusher after a trade back, and people are furious.
Who'd you take?
The guy from Michigan. I'm blanking on his name right now. Yes.
You took a guy, you can't even remember his name.
Forgot. I'm still on vacation mode.
Okay. At least you got. That reminds me. You also have that piece up I read this morning on the perfect draft picks, and I remember there's something in there that made me really angry.
Ooh.
Was it that you called Leonard Floyd still the perfect pick at number 9?
See, I couldn't make a better argument for anybody else behind him. Maybe Taylor Decker. Maybe Laramie Tunsil. Yeah, but he's not the perfect pick for the team that drafted him.
Why not?
He's not on the team of the He's not on the Dolphins.
Well, just because they made a weird trade doesn't.
That's part of it, man. That's part of it. I know what you're saying.
If the Bears had drafted him, though, he'd be a franchise left tackle right now.
Yeah. They probably should. They also probably should have kept Leonard Floyd.
I'm not convinced that Leonard Floyd would be. I think that's a situation where he goes off to a better place. And
I'm 100% convinced he'd be better than Robert Quinn, though.
Oh, that's true. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes him a perfect pick. You did bring up a good point, though. There's not a whole lot of great players in that area of that specific draft. So, yeah. And Dak Prescott's in there, just in case you're wondering.
Yes, so check it out. Yeah.
Would have been a perfect pick for sure. And we would be talking about a lot of different things. But, hey, the Bears don't have Dak Prescott. So, hence, a lot of quarterback talk today and always, but especially as we bring in Dane Brugler here with some outstanding draft talk. And, he's one of the first people on Zach Wilson. So you're going to want to pay attention. You're going to want to check out the beast as well. So here he is, Dane Brugler. Okay, as we inch closer and closer to the NFL draft, I don't know why it seems like it's taking longer this year than usual, but we welcome in our friend Dane Brugler, who you can follow on Twitter at DP Brugler, and the author of the outstanding thing they call The Beast, which I've been perusing through for the last week or so since it came out, and it is available to our Athletic subscribers. So if you are subscribed, you have access to it. And let me tell you, it is worth the price of the subscription alone, just the beast. And if you're not, then you should be subscribed at theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. So do that, and you can read all this outstanding draft information. Dane, thanks so much for taking the time with us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been, I think you're right. This, for whatever reason, this draft cycle's just taken a little bit longer than usual. And I'm sure there's probably reasons for that are pandemic related, but I'm ready for it to be here.
Dane, as you're putting something like this together, I'm curious, when a major trade comes through, like what the 49ers just pulled off, like what are your emotions as you're working on this every single day and you see a move like that come to fruition?
Well, obviously, in a draft like this, which is unique, with so many quarterbacks at the top, I think we expected something to happen. We weren't sure, was it going to be the Panthers? Was it going to be, the Patriots making a bold move? We thought something was going to happen. We just weren't sure when and which team it was going to be. And we're still trying to figure out which quarterback it's going to be. Which quarterback did San Francisco trade up to number 3 for? So, my first reaction was, Trey Lance. That's a perfect fit. Love what he could do in that Shanahan offense. Then all the chatter picked up about Mac Jones, and talking to, my buddies around the league. That's what they hear as well. That doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, but that's just what the chatter is right now around the league. And so, it's I don't do any mock drafts or anything in the draft guide. It's just about the players. So thankfully that trade didn't mess anything up. But I do have a 7-round mock draft coming out tomorrow on the Athletic. So if any trades happen tonight, I'm not going to be a happy camper. So.
Yeah, well, we're still trying to figure out if the Chicago Bears will try to make some type of move to get one of these quarterbacks. But it seems like those options might be limited at this point. Before we start talking about maybe some of the second-tier quarterbacks that could be in play potentially for the Bears, let me just ask you this. Is this quarterback class at the top worth all the hype? I mean, is it worth the possibility that it seems obvious that 3 quarterbacks are going 1, 2, 3. Maybe it's going to be 4. Maybe it's going to be 5 in a row. Is this class worth the hype?
I think so. I mean, just on the surface, we've only had quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3 twice before, and it hasn't happened since '99. So this is a rare occurrence. And you look at Trevor Lawrence; he's been anointed to be the guy since day one. So no big surprise there. Zach Wilson with what he did this past season at BYU, really announcing himself as a legitimate top of the draft type of quarterback prospect. And then with Justin Fields and Trey Lance, 2 guys that, we knew were high on the radar coming into this season. And I don't think they did anything to necessarily hurt that. Obviously, Trey Lance only had 1 game to play. But you look at Justin Fields, and there were some low points for him throughout the season. But all in all, it was a positive season for him, leading his team to the national title game. Being right there in the mix, talking about a Heisman conversation and, setting records at Ohio State. So, all these quarterbacks, they're deserving of top 10 consideration. You throw Mac Jones in there. I mean, he kind of has taken the Joe Burrow route, from, mid-round pick to possible top 10 pick. And so I think the thing that we need to remember, all of us, these quarterbacks, as talented as they are, they're like, it's like ice cream, different flavors, but it's all good. So, one team might prefer Mac Jones, another team might prefer Trey Lance. And it comes down to preference. It comes down to scheme, what you're looking for. Certain teams value certain traits differently in quarterbacks. You look at Mac Jones, and some people look at that and say, how the heck could he go number 3 overall? And okay, well, let's just boil it down. If you're going to list the most important traits at the quarterback position, where do you start? Accuracy, decision-making. Those are top 2. Those are non-negotiable. And you could argue that Mac Jones is a well above average in both those areas. You just have to decide, is he good enough in everything else? The mobility, the arm strength, all these other qualities that you ideally want in a quarterback. So it's a really interesting group of quarterbacks, 1 through 5. And then that's where there's a little bit of a drop off. And then things get a little muddied in terms of the next quarterbacks off the board.
Davis Mills would be your next quarterback. So characterize that gap, if you can, from Mac Jones to Davis Mills. And then the guys after that, Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, like how far apart are those guys from even a Davis Mills in your evaluations?
I mean, there's a lot more margin of error when you talk about that next tier of quarterbacks. There's a lot more room where you're hoping that it works out, but there's a lot more reason to have doubt. Aside from the top 5, with Davis Mills, 11 career starts. The sample size is not there that you want. The knee is a big issue. You heard it back in high school, and it was an issue for him throughout college. If my medical staff says, hey, the knee looks good, it's not going to be a long-term problem. I mean, could he always re-injure it? Sure, that's possible. But there's nothing that says that it's going to be an issue just by itself, the pre-existing injury. That would be a huge step, and bump up Davis Mills maybe even a little bit more. The sample size isn't great, but what he has put on tape, you feel really good about. You watch him in the final game that he played at the college level against UCLA. He led his team back with an overtime win in that game, and I think he put everything on display. But what type of player that he is. Love him over the middle of the field. He's really good working the middle of the field. Really good touch. He's a very loose passer with the way he moves. So you're talking about a guy who's still figuring things out. Only 11 starts, like I said. He was 6-5 in those starts. He's still figuring out the throws he should and shouldn't make. But he can move around for a guy that's 6'4", 220. He's not a statue in the pocket, and he's a very confident passer. So I'm a fan of Davis Mills. If I get the right value for him, which is somewhere in the mid day 2 range, then I would feel really good about drafting him and developing him with the idea that he would be my long-term starter.
As you look at these quarterbacks, how much stock do you put, and maybe especially with some of these middle tier guys, in I guess which way the arrow was pointed in their final collegiate season? Because I see Davis Mills as a guy who, for whatever reason, whether it was the knee, other things, KJ Costello being there that he had to beat out, he finally seemed to start hitting his stride this year, and you see positive things coming into the picture right at the end of his college career, even though the sample size ends up being pretty limited. And on the other end, I look at Kellen Mond, who a lot of people like for a lot of good reasons. I mean, he is a more dynamic athlete, but man, that guy seemed like he was in college forever, and I kept waiting for him to be, the superstar, and it seemed like, especially the last 2 seasons, he never quite made that jump.
Yeah, and my favorite part of the draft process is understanding the journey that each one of these guys go on. From when they start playing football until now. Who did they have to beat out to get on the field? What type of recruit were they? Or were they a 5-star coming in and expected to be the guy? Were they maybe a little underrated? Like a Kyle Trask, who was a backup in high school. Like, all of that is relevant information, and it helps us understand not who only, where they've been, who they are, but also where they're headed. It says a lot about them. So, with Davis Mills, he redshirts his first year, still recovering from the injury, doesn't play in 2018 because of KJ Costello. He is able to beat out KJ Costello in 2019 and basically forces Costello to transfer. And he is the guy in 2020, started every game. The only game he did miss is because of a false positive for a COVID test. He missed the opener in the pandemic shortened season in the Pac-12. So, that's his story. With Kellen Mond, you're right. A 4-year starter out of IMG Academy, highly recruited. And there are positives to take away. You look at his completion percentage every year, and it incrementally went up, which is a great thing to see. His interceptions, the turnovers, much improved from his younger years. But I don't know if you're if you're listening to this and you want to go scout Kellen Mond, I would suggest to watch the Florida tape and the LSU tape. I think that's the high and the low, and really that's what it comes down to for me with Kellen Mond is the inconsistency. Is you will watch the Florida tape and you will see some big time throws, a guy that's leading his team to an important victory late in the game, just doing everything that his team needs him to do. And then you throw in the LSU game and it's just sloppy play. And the defense is showing him things that he just doesn't know what to do. He's not reacting the right way. And you're not sure which Kellen Mond you're going to get. And so that inconsistency is my biggest issue with him. But a team's going to focus on that Florida tape and say, listen, I know he can do this. We just have to eliminate some of the bad habits, get him, we'll coach him up, and we'll make sure that this is the guy that is playing for us week in and week out. And I have no doubt that a team is going to take that approach, which ultimately might be the right approach. It just comes down to, if you think you can get the consistency you want out of him with your coaching.
So if you're the Bears and you're stuck looking at these second-tier QBs, obviously 20 may be a bad spot to pick a quarterback, especially if those top 5 are off the board. Like, when's the right time to make a move for these second-tier guys? Like, I'm from what I'm hearing, you might have to overdraft one of these guys. You may have to ignore your board a bit and take a reach if you want one of these quarterbacks on your roster.
And most quarterbacks are overdrafted, if we're being honest. The Dak Prescotts are rare. That just doesn't happen. So most quarterbacks do have to be overdrafted just because there's always going to be a demand and not enough supply. So, you're looking at day 2. I don't think we're going to see more than the 5 quarterbacks in the first round. We'll see the 5 likely go in the top 10. Lawrence is going 1. Wilson, we believe, is going 2. And then things get really interesting with what happens in San Francisco. What does Atlanta do? And then who gets that 5th quarterback? Is it, the Broncos? Could it be, I can't rule out the Panthers, even though they did trade for Sam Darnold. The Patriots, could Washington make a move? We don't think Chicago is going to make a move. So it'll be interesting with the top 5. And then when you talk about 6, 7, 8, we believe that'll be Davis Mills, Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask, in whichever order. You're probably looking at the second round. Maybe one of those guys, like maybe Mills and Mond go second, Trask ends up going third. That would make some sense. I think, to me, Kyle Trask is Mason Rudolph. I think they're carbon copy of each other. I think just by looking at the resume, watching their tape, second round's a little rich for Mills and Mond, but it's a quarterback position. So if you have shown at least the ability or the potential to be a starter in this league, chances are you're going to be overdrafted. And I think a team's probably going to have to do that in the second round this year to get either of those 2 quarterbacks.
Let's go back to the top of the quarterback class. How big's the gap between Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson? Because the more and more I watch Zach, the more and more I like him. But obviously, there's no denying how good Trevor Lawrence should be.
If you're going to create a quarterback, it's going to look something like Trevor Lawrence. He's quick in everything he does, both mentally and physically. I don't know that I would call him a generational quarterback, but I would call him a generational talent. When you break down everything that he offers, it's really impressive, both not only just on the field, but also off the field. The intangibles, which we know are so important in the NFL, being a leader, doing the right things, just the football character, the personal character. So he checks all those boxes. Really the only negative that you look at him is, coming in at 213 pounds for a guy that's 6'6" was a little surprising. You want to see more meat on the bones there, just durability wise, more body armor. So, just adding more weight, I think that's, something that teams want to see. But, one of the big reasons Urban Meyer took the Jacksonville Jaguars job is because he knew Trevor Lawrence would be his guy. So, Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent, no question. With Zach Wilson, I took some heat in the fall when I wrote an article on The Athletic in October saying that Zach Wilson's in a quarterback 2 mix. There's no question. And, I posted some all-22 clips and explained why, and people weren't ready to accept it yet. People, I think they are now. The talent that he has is so impressive. His off-platform stuff is so good. The way he can move, the way he makes these quick decisions, and really, to me, that's what separates Wilson from Lance and Fields, in my opinion. And this is a Bill Walsh thing. He always talked about the difference between good and great at the quarterback position was the ability to make the great spontaneous decision. And, you watch Fields and he's just a little too methodical. And I think he can speed that up. I would gladly take Justin Fields in the top 10 if my team needed a quarterback. But the ability to make that spontaneous decision is what makes Zach so impressive, because it's always on time. It's always accurate. He just has that whip of an arm where, he can be off platform outside of structure and make something happen. Sometimes he's a little too quick to abandon the pocket. There are times where, he is a little too frenetic. Want to see him be a little more controlled, but it works for him. And, he's a true junior. He's 21 years old. He's going to grow and develop and get better. So I'm a big fan of Zach Wilson as well. And I don't think I ever really answered your question because I don't know that I know how, because it's tough because these guys are so good. Trevor Lawrence is such like I said, a generational talent, but it's easy to like Wilson as well.
So if you're the Bears and you're now stuck at 20, obviously, like we said, quarterback's kind of out of the question here. And I think in Chicago, a lot of fans have become obsessed with these offensive tackles. So some advice for you: don't dare draft an outside linebacker at number 24 in your mock draft. They love these offensive tackles. Is that like the perfect range for some of these best guys at tackle, number 20? Or could they potentially wait to the second round and really earn some value, get some value with some of these other guys?
Yeah, the tackle conversation this year's different. It's just because we're not used to having this, log jam of tackles on day two. Usually you better get your tackle in the first round or you're out of luck. You look around the league and there's always exceptions. Guys that you find later in the draft, who end up hitting and being good starters. That will happen. But for the most part, you're looking at the first round where that's where you find your tackles. This year, Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, they're going to be the first two tackles drafted, both of them somewhere in the top 12 picks. And then that's where things get a little murky in terms of, okay, who's that next tackle? Because there's different opinions around the league. Some really like Christian Darrisaw, which understandably, some prefer Tevin Jenkins. There's some out there that look at Samuel Cosmi out of Texas and say, we'll bet on that athleticism. We'll bet on that player. Liam Eichenberg, the veteran savvy that he brings to the field. There's some teams that are really high on him. Alex Leatherwood, who I graded as a guard, but some teams want to keep him at tackle and think he could be a long-term starter. Walker Little from Stanford is really intriguing, having not played basically in 2 years. But, the talent, the trajectory that he was on at that time said, okay, maybe a future first-round pick. So there's Brady Christensen as well, BYU, who, just had a fantastic year protecting Zach Wilson's blind side. So there's a lot of tackles this year, and it'll be interesting to see. I think there'll be a few surprises here. Because there is just different orders and rankings. It's not like there's one defined ranking that every team is going by. Some teams will have Samuel Cosmi as the third tackle off the board. Some will have Dylan Radins. It's different from team to team. And so I do think that they could find value in the second round because there are so many of these tackles. You just have to, if you're the Bears, it just comes down to, do you really like, after Sewell and Slater, who do you really like? Is there a tackle that you see that's head and shoulders above the rest of these guys? And you don't want to wait because you don't want to be stuck with plan C, D, or E. You want to take your guy. And I certainly understand that thinking. We'll see who will be there. Will Darrisaw still be on the board? Tevin Jenkins? So I do think that pick at number 20 could be the sweet spot. If you want to upgrade the tackle position and you don't feel as great about that next level of tackles, that may or may not be there for you on day two.
Let me tell you, both of you, this. Ryan Pace, the Bears general manager, has you both right where he wants them, thinking he's not trading up for a quarterback. And Johns, you should know better. You should know better.
They're going to have to give up the house, the building.
Hey, they were going to do it for Wilson. Russell Wilson, that is. So, Dane, let me ask you this. If you heard out of nowhere on draft night, and he's done this before, shocking everybody, the Bears were trading up to number 4 for Trey Lance, what would be your reaction? Good move?
Yeah, go get your quarterback. And take a swing. If it doesn't work out, then, so be it. But I'd rather have my chance at bat than to, be on deck and not get that chance. So, yeah, Trey Lance is an easy player to like. When you look at the projectable body, you look at some of the natural accuracy that he has. It could be inconsistent at times, but he's a natural thrower. And this isn't a guy that's been a quarterback, with learning from quarterback gurus since he could walk. And he played safety as a senior in high school, along with quarterback. Minnesota recruited him as a safety. Like, this is a guy who still has a lot of ability that's untapped. And, he's going to get better in some areas. So I would be all for that if they figure out a way to make it happen without just completely mortgaging the future. Obviously, going from 20 to 4 is going to take multiple first-round picks. You are taking a big risk, and it would take a lot. But at the same time, I think that it would be. I would be in favor of it as long as they're not, giving up too much to make the move happen.
One of the real quick, Johns. One of the as a Wisconsin Badger, I had to laugh reading The Beast. I read this in The Beast. I didn't know this until I read it. It's one of the reasons why you should be checking this out from Dane Brugler. So Minnesota offered Zach Wilson, didn't get him. He goes to BYU. They only recruited Trey Lance as a safety, though. So maybe they could have had 2 of the top quarterbacks in this draft as a gopher, and they blew it. Sorry.
Quarterback's tough, huh? I mean, at every level, it's tough to figure these guys out, I guess. Because it's not like, the Bears are just, not as good as evaluating the quarterback position as others. It's tough. There's a margin of error with all these guys. And it's just, college recruiting, NFL drafting, it's tough. So, hopefully, history tells us that of the 5 quarterbacks that are likely to go in the top 10 picks, that, half of them are going to bust and not live up to it. And so right now, these guys are, we're talking all positive about them, how good they're going to be. But history tells us it's not going to be the case when we look back 5-6 years from now.
It's like Sam Darnold, right? Here are the Jets. Back in the top 5, looking at number 2, right. Zach Wilson. Does the desperation of all this ever shock you? I feel like in recent years, maybe the past 10 years, you've seen teams really get aggressive to try to find these quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. So for a guy who analyzes the draft, is the desperation, the selling of the future, the mortgaging the future, like you said. Does it ever surprise you? Does it ever scare you as you go through these guys?
I mean, it has to, because like I said, the history tells us that no matter, how strongly you feel about a player, there's at least a degree of, okay, this might not work out. And because there's so many variables here, you just don't know guys, the personalities, how they're going to mix in a veteran locker room. Are they going to mesh with the coaching staff? There's just so many different areas that are tough to figure out pre-draft. Now, I think that there are some teams that do it maybe a little more smart than others. But, like the Panthers, they were ready to be aggressive. And instead of trading up to 3 or 4 to get one of these quarterbacks, they're going the Sam Darnold route, which is an interesting move. Every team, every franchise looks at this a little bit differently. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. The Jaguars were able to lose all their games and get Trevor Lawrence. That's how it worked out. The Chiefs were able to move up to get Pat Mahomes. It worked, that's how it worked out for them. It's just each one, there's no exact path to get your quarterback. It just, part of it, a little bit of it is luck. Let's be honest, in terms of the right situation, the right quarterback being there. And so, but the evaluation is a big part of it as well.
As far as other positions that could maybe spur movement in the draft, I don't know if it's tackle, cornerback. I think you got receivers leads the way in your top 100, right, with 14 or 15 players. Like, yeah. If you're the Bears and teams come calling for number 20, I'm curious, like, what positions do you think could be in serious play, or which players maybe could be in serious play late in the first round as teams get aggressive for other positions, not quarterback?
We could be maybe looking at corner. You have Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn likely to go in the top 15, and then where's Greg Newsome go? You look at the teams picking right after the Bears at 21, 22, 23. You have the Colts, the Titans, and the Jets. So 3 teams that could use a corner. We could see a team maybe move up to 20 to get Greg Newsome or whoever they feel is the next best corner. They don't want to miss out on their guy. There's pass rushers. This is a weird year for pass rushers where we're not going to have a pass rusher top 10, But in the back half of round 1, we could see a run on these guys. And, it's another position where we could see them going 21, 22, 23. So if a team really covets Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia or Jalen Phillips out of Miami, whichever one they want, maybe we see them try to move up to 20 to ensure that they get their guys. So looking at who's picking right after the Bears and then looking at some of the strengths of the back half of round 1, those two positions and players stand out as possibilities that, that's why you keep the phone lines open and maybe something, gets your attention and makes sense for your franchise.
So I apologize for putting you on the spot here, but you said earlier that you really enjoy like learning the backstories of all these prospects, all the homework you do on these guys. Well, give us a great story of maybe a prospect we don't know about or don't know the background of, because there's always great stories.
No question, and there's a lot of them in here. A couple tight ends. You've got Jacob Harris out of UCF, who's a wide receiver, tight end. He's 220 pounds. He grew up playing soccer. That's what he thought he was going to be in the MLS. Didn't play football until his senior year, and that was only just to have some fun with his buddies. He goes to Florida Gulf Coast on a scholarship for soccer, and after a week, he had that itch for football, and so he walks on at Western Kentucky, gets homesick, goes back home, walks on at UCF, and then gets better and better and better. This past year as a senior, he had 8 touchdowns. And then he blew up his pro day. 6'5", 220 pounds, 4.40 in the 40, a 6'5", 3-cone, just ridiculous numbers for a guy that size. Big-time special teams player. So I'm going to draft him on, somewhere in that, round 5, round 6, and I feel good about what he's going to give me on special teams while I try to develop him as a big slot receiver or a tight end and see what I get out of him. Zach Davidson, Central Missouri, another tight end who's a late-round draft pick. He was a punter only as a junior in high school. And he was thinking about giving up the sport and just focusing on basketball. And they gave him, the coaches said, we'll give you a shot to maybe try out tight end a little bit. So he does it, and he kind of liked it. And he goes to Central Missouri on a punting scholarship. And they also said, we'll put a little footnote in there that we'll also let you try out a tight end. Okay, well, he does. And next thing you know, he's a 6'5", or 6'6", 245-pound tight end who just no one could cover him last year as a junior. Didn't play this year because of the pandemic. So a couple of these tight ends, really, really interesting backstories.
All right, Dane, quickly, can you tell us who you have at number 20 for the Bears and why in your mock draft?
I'm going to go Tevin Jenkins, Oklahoma State, the right tackle. I think he's, there's no such thing as a safe pick. It just doesn't exist. But you feel like you know what you're getting. Very unique with his power. He's got experience at left tackle. He's got experience at guard. So I think he's a plug-and-play starter and someone that's going to help your offense from day one.
So quick follow-up to that then. If you draft a guy like Tevin Jenkins, what would you do with him right away? Is he a guy, you said plug-and-play. The Bears do have Charles Leno on the left side. Maybe a little bit more iffy with Jermaine Ifedi on the right. So how would you handle that as a rookie?
I think you play in a right tackle competition going into training camp and, let the best man start. If it emerges, or if you think that getting the best 5 on the field means Jenkins sliding inside the guard, then maybe you think about that. But, I think you don't predetermine, because he does have some experience elsewhere that gives you a little bit of versatility to maybe mix and match. Maybe you move Ifedi inside, which I know he's done before. So, I think you leave it open to the training camp and say, let's get the 5 best on the field, and we feel good about the guys we're bringing to camp.
All right, Dane. Awesome information as always. We appreciate it. Our listeners should be following you on Twitter at DP Brugler, of course, over the next couple weeks and year round, because you get great insights in September about who's going to be the number 2 quarterback, and everybody doubts it. It turns out that's also the case. So, Dane, thanks so much.
Thanks, Dane.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Are you stressed? Tired? Don't feel like cooking tonight? Food that's fast doesn't have to be fast food. Freshly offers quality meals without the hard work of prepping, cooking, and cleaning. Freshly offers chef-made, nutrient-packed, delicious meals delivered fresh to your door. No cooking required. And ordering is very easy. Just visit Freshly.com and choose from over 30 delicious, satisfying, better-for-you meals like steak peppercorn, that's one of my favorite, or sausage baked penny, that's pretty good too. And now, our listeners can try Freshly for just $16.16 per meal. Your meals are always delivered fresh, never frozen, and are ready to heat and enjoy in just 3 minutes. Right now, Freshly is offering our listeners $40 off your first 2 orders when you go to Freshly.com/ADAMS. freshly.com/Adam. Stop stressing about dinner. Go to freshly.com/Adam for $40 off your first 2 orders. That's freshly.com/Adam for $40 off your first 2 orders. What's up, fellas? NFL draft season is upon us. We all know that, but it's possible you might have Trevor Lawrence's haircut in your pants. That's why our partners at Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have partnered with us to make sure you don't gamble on shaving your balls the same way you like to gamble on football. So for all my draft geeks and friends, we have an exclusive 20% off promo code ADAM at manscaped.com. The Performance Package comes with a new and improved Lawnmower 3.0, Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer, Performance Boxer Briefs. Let me tell you, they're extremely comfortable, and a travel bag for you to use when we're done quarantining, and some other liquid formulations like the Crop Preserver and Crop Reviver. Let me just say, those are perfect for before and after working out. And for a limited time, subscribers get not 1 but 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag, which has a $39 value, and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped Boxer Briefs. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code ADAM at manscaped.com. Again, get 20% off and free shipping with code ADAM at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code ADAM. It's time you turn that team in your pants around with Manscaped.
And just a reminder, if you are already an Athletic subscriber, you can get the Beast. It's a download, so it's a PDF download. You download it. I have it on my tablet right here, and it's just there for you. Great draft reference. The rest of these next, 2.5 weeks away from the draft now at this point?
267 pages.
Yeah, that's why it's called the Beast.
So if you're one of like these nostalgic draft readers, like this is like perfect for you. Like those, remember those old draft magazines Pro Football Weekly used to do? Like, and like, there used to be a ton more out there. Like this is part of it, but it's modern. It's got good graphics, easy to read, lots of info from Dane as always.
And if you want, I believe you can print it out. I mean, it's a lot of pages, but maybe send it off to Kinko's. Is Kinko still a thing?
I don't know.
What year
Staples?
is it? Staples? No, FedEx store. One of those stores. They can print it for you, or you can do it at home. Whatever you want. Or you can just keep it on your laptop. That works too. A lot of different... It's just full of great information. So make sure you check that out. And I'm telling you, it's worth it for the subscription alone. So if you're not subscribed, you're still holding out. theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. Go check it out right now. And you can find the Beast as well as all of Adam Johns' mock drafts that make people angry. You can see those.
I'm here
too.
for you. I'm here for your frustrations.
Any final thoughts, my friend?
I like the Jenkins pick.
Yeah, I do too. He's
How
growing
could you
on
not?
me.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's no such thing as a safe pick, but that seems like a pretty solid pick for if the Bears stand pat. Maybe they can even trade back a spot or two, pick up an extra pick somewhere, then make that pick. Be okay.
Yeah, and the hit rate on offensive linemen is usually pretty good in late, to middle to late first round. So yeah, safe. No one likes using that word, but I think this applies here. He also has, like, if you read the Beast, the tenacity that Jenkins plays with, I feel like has been long overdue for the Bears' offensive line, and probably sorely missed since Kyle Long retired then unretired. But he's not here. You know what I mean.
There are other NFL teams, we've talked about this before on this podcast, who do not think the Bears play physical enough. And I think there's a good case to be made for that. So if you can add a nasty guy like that up front, that would certainly help. Weren't there books when we were kids that we read called The Beast? Were those Goosebump book? Was that a Goosebump book?
Well, every time I hear the reference to The Beast, I think of Sandlot.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's the Beast, the big dog.
Mm-hmm.
Chases Benny the Jet around.
There's something like with the Beast and a roller coaster. Someone's going to listen to this and know exactly what I'm talking about and tweet it at us. I guarantee it. Someone knows what I'm talking about. Usually, every episode, there is one person who understands what I'm talking about. That's really all I'm shooting for on this podcast.
to be understood.
Then it becomes a success if just one person.
It's hard, guys. I've been trying, so help me out here.
Yeah, we set the bar high.
Sometimes I just smile and shrug and say yes.
That's mostly what you do. I appreciate that. It helps my confidence. All right. We're out of here. Follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns. You can read me at NBCSportsChicago.com. I have plenty of draft coverage coming up. you have the mock draft 3.0. Dane Brugler has his 7th round mock. You're going to want to check out on The Athletic. So check it out on theathletic.com/Hoge Jahns. And this will be our only episode this week. But next week, back to 2 episodes a week as we dive into the draft. We will be that way probably for a while. Still, I don't know if there is going to be a rookie mini camp and OTAs coming up. It seems like there might be at some point. Actual practices happening and getting these players on the field, which would be good for everyone, including us, quite frankly. As the weather warms up, I'd like to get out there on the football field a little bit too. So I have a feeling we'll be going 2 days a week here for a little bit until maybe our usual summer hiatus. So all that's coming up next week. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
Y'all stay corona free, all right? And God bless.